The girl who talked to animals. The moon was high, casting shadows through the trees. A girl's scream echoed in the night. It wasn't the scream of a normal child, it was different, deeper. Almost like it wasn't coming from her mouth. A long time ago, in a small village at the edge of the forest, there lived a young girl named Amina. She was different from the other children. While they laughed and played, Amina spent her days sitting by the forest, staring into the thick trees. "Amina, why don't you play with the others?" her mother would ask. "I don't need to," Amina replied softly, her dark eyes fixed on the forest. "I have friends there." Her mother laughed, thinking she was talking about imaginary friends. But as days passed, strange things started happening in the village. One evening, Amina came home with a small bird in her hands, its wing broken. She sat quietly, whispering to it. Her mother watched as the bird seemed to listen to her words. Minutes later, the bird flapped its wings and flew off into the night, as if it had never been hurt. "How did you do that?" her mother asked, her voice trembling. "I just told it to get better," Amina said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. People in the village began to notice. Amina didn't just talk to birds. She whispered to stray dogs, insects, even snakes. Every time the animals obeyed, they would heal, or leave, or follow her. People started to fear her, whispering behind her back. "She has a gift," one old woman said. "No," a man muttered, "it's not a gift. It's a curse." One night, the village chief came to Amina's mother. His face was pale, and his hands shook. "Your daughter, she's causing trouble. The animals are acting strange. Last night, a lion was seen near the village. It didn't attack anyone, just stood there, like it was waiting. People are scared." Amina's mother confronted her. "What are you doing? Are you calling the animals?" "They need me, Mama," Amina whispered, her voice soft but steady. "They are angry. They're not happy with what people are doing to the forest." Her mother stared at her, eyes wide. "What are you talking about? The trees are being cut. The animals are losing their homes. They're asking for help." "Animals don't talk, Amina," her mother yelled, grabbing her shoulders. "They do to me," Amina said, her eyes calm, too calm. The next day, the chief called a village meeting. "We have to do something about the girl. She's dangerous. If she can control the animals, who knows what else she can do." The villagers gathered torches and spears. They marched toward Amina's house. Amina stood at the door, waiting. She wasn't afraid. "Stop this, Amina," the chief shouted. "Tell the animals to leave. We don't want trouble." Amina looked at him with cold eyes. "It's too late. You've hurt them for too long." Before anyone could move, the ground trembled. From the forest, animals appeared, silent and still. Lions, snakes, birds, hyenas, all stood around the village, their eyes glowing in the moonlight. The villagers froze, their torches flickering in the dark. No one dared to move. Amina stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "They won't hurt you if you listen." The chief shook his head. "We will not be threatened by a child." He raised his spear. Suddenly, a lion roared, its sound shaking the ground. The chief dropped the spear, his hands trembling. The villagers screamed and ran, but the animals didn't chase them. They just stood there, waiting for Amina's command. Her mother, watching from the doorway, fell to her knees. "What have you done?" she whispered. Amina turned to her, eyes shining in the dark. "I didn't do anything. They just want respect. They want peace." But the villagers didn't understand. Fear spread like wildfire. They believed Amina was a witch, that she had cursed the village. That night, they came with fire. Amina and her mother were inside their small hut when the flames started. The animals howled and cried, but they couldn't stop the fire. The villagers blocked the way, making sure no one escaped. As the hut burned, Amina's mother held her close, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have believed you." Amina didn't cry. She looked out of the window, where the animals gathered, watching. "I'll always be with them," she whispered, her voice soft like the wind. "And they will always be with me." The fire roared, and soon, everything was silent. The next morning, the villagers found no trace of Amina or her mother. The animals had disappeared too. But the forest was different now. It felt alive, almost like it was watching. From that day on, no one dared to cut the trees or harm an animal. The village became quiet, but the people never felt alone. At night, they could hear whispers in the wind and the soft rustling of leaves, as if something, or someone, was always watching. And sometimes, if you listened closely, you could hear a young girl's voice speaking softly to the animals, her words carried by the wind. The village never forgot the girl who talked to animals. And they never stopped fearing the forest that protected her.